You're about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
Back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. So a suspect holding community members hostage at a Bakersfield, California bank while threatening to detonate a bomb was shot dead by FBI agents overnight. All of the hostages, thank God, were released without injury. Bakersfield is a city about 113 miles north of Los Angeles. Said several community members were trapped inside a building that houses a Chase Bank and school district office for about 15 hours until the suspect was shot and killed just after 4 a.m. Wednesday morning. They said all hostages were located unharmed, received medical evaluation and treatment at the scene. According to The Independent, the suspect, who had claimed to have a bomb struck his body, was pronounced dead at the scene. We do not know his identity yet or his motive, but the standoff began at around 1 p.m. Police responded to reports of a bomb threat at a bank. Nearby buildings were evacuated. Roads were closed off as a result. 2 of the hostages were released on Tuesday. It remained unclear at the time how many people were there. Authorities said their investigation is still ongoing, and they are going to be providing an update, actually, which is starting now. So they are holding a press conference, and if we get any more information, we will let you know. But very, very frightening stuff. Also frightening as multiple strong earthquakes off the West Coast have sent multiple shock waves affecting 2 states. They were detected less than 100 miles from the coast of California and Oregon. According to Daily Mail, the first alerts were sent out after the U.S. Geological Survey detected a 5.7 earthquake in the Pacific Ocean this morning at about 3:53 a.m. local time, Pacific time. And the Seaquake's epicenter was about 100 miles from the West Coast. Residents in both states reported shaking, feeling the large tremor. Multiple coastal communities from Eureka, California to Reedsport, Oregon, which is about 240 miles north, felt the tremors. The seismic event had an aftershock of a 5.1 earthquake that followed at about 5:45 a.m. local time, and that struck about 55 miles from Eureka. Eureka is a city, more than 25,000 people in the northern part of the state. It's beautiful. And then a third quake happened, this one registering at 4.5 in magnitude, erupted in the Pacific, same spot as the second quake did. So, earthquakes, sadly, are part of the, just kind of par for the course in that area. But as I've said before, we're very, very nervous about the Pacific Northwest and a big one hitting. We had the big one in Japan that caused the Fukushima nuclear disaster. We've had the New Zealand earthquakes. We've had South America and Chile earthquakes that have been pretty catastrophic. And so all eyes over the last decade or two have been looking at the 4th corner of the Pacific Ocean, the northeast corner of the Pacific Ocean, or our Pacific Northwest. And so, unfortunately, we get a little nervous when we see these, these rattlings happen, especially since they could trigger tsunami warnings. Now, the local authorities, the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, warned that earthquakes are unpredictable, so be prepared for aftershocks. Drop, cover, hold on. USGS confirmed that its Shake Alert earthquake early warning system was activated by the quakes, sending out automatic warnings to thousands of people's phones and digital devices. No tsunami warnings have been issued, even though it was pretty proximal to the West Coast. USGS has noted that there's about a 60% chance that another quake is going to come that could be bigger than 3.0. Luckily, 3.0 is not too big, but we definitely don't want anything in the 5, 6, 7, 8 range, 9, 10 range. So apparently the area under and near Eureka is one of the most seismically active regions in the continental U.S. The city sits near the Mendocino Triple Junction. It's where 3 tectonic plates, the Pacific, the Juan de Fuca, and North American plates, all meet under the Earth's surface. And they say this crowded zone frequently produces earthquakes as the plates slide past each other. They get stuck, causing seismic stress. Geologists have estimated that this region has accounted for nearly 25% of all seismic energy released in California over the past 5 decades. Daily Mail says Thursday's trio of sizable earthquakes also took place near the dangerous Cascadia subduction zone, a nearly 700-mile-long fault line off the west coast of North America. So you guys who have been following this, I got a lot of listeners in California. Be safe out there. I know everyone's, scientists have long warned that the zone is overdue for this catastrophic event. They've been nicknaming it the sleeping giant. Simulations have shown the fault is capable of a magnitude 9.0 earthquake, which could affect most of the Pacific Northwest, including Seattle and Portland. Now, an April 2025 study found that a colossal earthquake along this CSZ zone was almost assured to take place by 2100, with a 37% chance that it's going to happen at some time in the next 50 years. If we got a wave that's 8.0 or 9.0, they predict that could produce a 100-foot tall mega tsunami. That could wipe out most of the nearby coastline. I know people say, well, we're going to have a San Andreas Fault earthquake, and then California is going to break off, go into the middle of the ocean, and Nevada is going to have beachfront property. No, I would not be excited about that at all. I want California to be there. I love the buffer California provides. I love California. I'm from California. I want them safe. But they could have severe flooding. And it's obviously a concern. So as I said, as we're, when you look at the history of some very, very severe earthquakes that have happened in South America, New Zealand, Japan, that fourth corner is ripe for one. And that fourth corner lands in our Pacific Northwest. So hopefully this is just kind of just some of the typical rumblings. It's hard to tell. I know people in Seattle have been able to lodge seismic activity or log seismic activity from their Seattle Seahawks stadium, making things roar, and good for them. I think that's pretty exciting. But I would maybe hold off on that until we know how stable the area is. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, don't go away.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's Aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media.
Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Spelled Out, DOCTOR Dahlia. Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So some of the latest results coming out this morning, and I understand some of you listen to our show delayed, so I apologize if this isn't as up to date. But as of 10:18 a.m. local time in California, Steve Hilton is still leading. The governor race has about 1.38 million votes, 27.8%. Javier Becerra, 1.267 million or 1.27 million, 25.4% of the votes, and Tom Steyer coming in third. Only 57.5% of the expected votes are in. Not much movement in the last hour, which to me is kind of concerning that here we are going into the next day. And unfortunately, California is notorious for them, like we saw with the last election and the congressional seats and those races. It took weeks to get the results. And early on, it looked like the Republicans were winning. I'm not saying anybody cheated, but this is the problem we have where why aren't the votes in? Why aren't they counted right away? And then weeks later, they went to Democrats. And if you're Democrat, and I have, I have love for both the Democrat and Republican Party. I'm American. All right. But you don't want there to be a process, whether you're Republican or Democrat, where there could be an adulteration or a contamination of the process. And so, if we're not going to see a lot of movement, and then all of a sudden, days later, like, oh, look at what happened, that same process could affect no matter what side you're on. So I really, really hope that California can somehow ensure and show the voters that there is election integrity and that the delays in counting mail-in ballots, some of which got burned, because somebody threw an incendiary device into the box that's just out there in public. Not the way to do an election. Not at all. In terms of the LA mayor race, Karen Bass is moving forward. 63.1% of the votes are in, but she has enough, they say, of the lead to already say she's moving forward. Now, I find that fascinating because there's still 290,000 votes. Spencer Pratt is coming in second place, which means he and Karen Bass will be in the runoff. Nithya Raman is in third place with 22.3% of the vote, but they already called it for Karen Bass. Now, that doesn't mean she's the shoo-in. You have to have at least 50% of the vote. So that means she and Spencer Pratt would be in a runoff. But still, I find it interesting that they already called it, and there's still 290,000. She's only leading Spencer Pratt by 21,000 votes, unless the ones remaining are in very, I guess, well-established Democratic strongholds. It's that just, I don't know, to me, we're going to call it, and it's because we know that these people vote. How do you know? I thought, people are voting in an election and they could change their mind. They can, why are we just assuming? And when you call it, do the other votes get counted? But the take home is how well the Republican candidates did in California. So as we spoke about, California has the a jungle primary. In fact, this actually came about during Arnold Schwarzenegger's term as governor. And this jungle primary doesn't have separate Republican, separate Democratic primaries. It's the top two people advance unless somebody gets 50% of the vote. They're the automatic winner. And so I know people were kind of concerned that, wait a second, with the jungle primary, then Republicans, will never get a chance because you have Democrats that are always running. The majority of them are Democrat. Then it'll always be a Democratic race in November. Well, looks like no. Looks like it does get. See, I'm not a big fan of the jungle primary. I really do believe that people should have a choice. And when you have a bunch of people on the ticket, that could dilute the vote, which is what people were saying. They were saying Karen Bass was going to be a shoo-in if it wasn't for Rahman being in the race. So yeah, the Democrats get split, the Republicans get split, but I really, really think that at an election, you should be able to vote for somebody who's an independent, a Green Party candidate, a Republican, a Democrat. Now, there have been manipulations of the system where a party throws an independent person there to help split the vote. I got to tell you, the antics that have happened for centuries as it pertains to elections, it's frightening. And here we are in 2026. You would think we would come up with an airtight way to do elections. And now it's just, okay, we're going to mail out the mail-in ballots by default. If you get one, great. If you don't, go to the website. Let us know. How does that instill confidence in our election system? It doesn't make sense. Like I said, I'm looking at this right now. Karen Bass has about 20,000 more votes, yet she's already been declared she's advancing. And I've taken a lot of math, and I know they're saying, well, you have to get more than 33% of the vote, 33, but that could change when there's 290,000 votes left. So I'm a little confused about that. We haven't really been watching much with the other races, I guess, with their attorney general. Both the Republican and Democrat are advancing. With their lieutenant governor, the GOP candidate is actually leading as well in California. Gloria Romero is beating Fiona Ma and Josh Friday, two Democrats. So seeing Republicans do as well as they did, does that mean there's going to be a Republican governor in California? Does it mean there's going to be a Republican mayor in L.A.? No, it doesn't. They're still the main election. But what this is telling the Democrats is your policies might not be that popular. Now, the state did a mid-census redistricting, taking away 4 Republican districts or Republican-leaning districts, making them lean more Democrat. And it'll be very interesting to see how people feel. And I have a lot of Democratic and Republican friends, colleagues, family members. Many of them are very moderate, and they almost sound alike, the Republicans and the Democrats. They actually do, with the exception of somebody hating Trump or liking Trump. The moderates oftentimes sound very similar. I don't want the high prices. I don't want the high homelessness. I don't want to see the drugs. I don't want my kids exposed to hypodermic needles. I don't want to see all our public funds depleted because of mismanagement. I don't want to see fraud. I want to know that, God forbid, there's a fire, we're prepared. I don't want to see a defunding of our first responders. A lot of moderate Democrats and moderate Republicans think the same. I want our beautiful state protected. I don't want to see, the loss of our environmental landscapes and trees, and I want us to protect the environment. These are things that are kind of agreed upon. Low crime, good education. And so if I know people are kind of shocked that Mayor Bass has, very easily had been able to advance. I don't know much about what Karen Bass did. I know what she didn't do. And I'm surprised people are happy with her. Was it really because Jane Fonda supports her? Or is it that people are just so anti-Republican that they'll vote for a candidate that hasn't really shown to do a good job? But from what I know, I got family, friends in L.A. I no longer live there. But it's not the L.A. I grew up in. It's not it's not the same California. And people don't like that. And so we might see a rejection of that. Now, the fact that the numbers are stalling and we're not seeing a lot of new polling numbers coming in is concerning. And I really do think we need to have, I don't want to call it election reform, but we need to go back to old school where you go in and vote. It's election day, and you have mail-in ballots for those who are overseas or disabled, which is usually a smaller number that doesn't necessarily really affect, and prolong and delay election results by weeks. 1-877 Dr. Ali.
Hi, everyone. Super Bowl champ Vernon Davis here from Legal Help Center. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up, because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. You can find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. The call is free, the consultation is free, and you can speak with a live agent right now. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident of any kind, call now to find out if you have a case and how much you could potentially get.
Thanks, Vernon. You heard it, folks. If you've been injured, call and find out how much you qualify for. Call 800-679-0800. That's 800-679-0800. 800-679-0800. Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So I see this article that says people are flooding AI chatbots with health questions. So Microsoft is going to team up with Mayo Clinic, according to CNN, to help. Okay, well, that's nice. That's nice. But I'm starting to cringe a little bit because I see what people are asking these chatbots. And these chatbots are very limited because they don't get trained like we do in medicine. Now, I understand the newer doctors might not be trained the way I was. But the way I was trained as a doctor is the patient may not necessarily be, shall we say, giving the right diagnosis. And so I'm going to put this on my, a lot of you, I'm going to do a Facebook Live for you guys. So I apologize. I'm getting that ready right now. So I'm not very tech savvy, so I can't broadcast and tech at the same time. But I'm getting there, and we're getting videos out there for you. So when I was in training and we were told somebody would come in saying, oh, yeah, I have a sore throat. 9 times out of 10, it wasn't about a sore throat. You look a little deeper, and they may have anxiety. They may have depression. They may have acid reflux. They may have cardiac issues. And so as the public is flooding AI with their medical questions, and AI is giving answers, and now we're hearing that Microsoft is going to team up with Mayo Clinic, and I'm glad. I'm glad, doctors. In fact, I have been offered by multiple AI companies to kind of review some of the medicine and all that. And I don't have a lot of time, so I'm trying to see what I can do, because there's a lot of there, and I'm going to be very, very strict, and very, very conservative with what the answer should be, because I don't want somebody misled. But the big problem I'm seeing with patients is they will go to their AI and they'll say, how do I address shingles? I have shingles. So AI will give them a beautiful response on what to do for shingles. So they call up then telemedicine going, I need Valtrex. I have shingles. And you're like, great, where? I got them all over my body. You mean both sides, right and left? Yep. Well, usually shingles is one side of the body. How do you know you have shingles? AI told me. So you inputted your rash? Well, no, I inputted what to do for shingles, and they told me this is what I need to do. So you see where there's a little bit of a problem here. If you tell AI you have something, are they going to go, wait a second, let me stop and think? Remember I told you I had a patient who was the son of a couple that I had seen. He was about, 30 years old. And he comes in saying, hi, I'm the son of so-and-so. Actually, he came in saying he had bronchitis and he wanted a Z-Pack. We're not really supposed to give Z-Packs for bronchitis, but that's what he came in and he wanted. And I'm looking at him, I was like, God, he looks kind of gray to me. He just looked gray. And he goes, by the way, I am the son of so-and-so. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Great. I love them. Have you been checked for diabetes? Because they have diabetes. See, this is where family medicine has its value. Because you remember and you know the family so well. And he's like, I haven't done a blood test, but I don't have diabetes. I go, for poops and giggles, all right? Let me just test your blood. And I did a quick finger stick, and it was off. My machine couldn't even measure it. It was over 400. He wasn't having bronchitis. He was going into DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis. He could have been dead by the end of the day. Now, I'm not saying this because I want you guys to go, oh, Dr. Dahlia, you're so good. But how is AI going to figure that out? If somebody is typing in there, I have bronchitis, and AI tells you what to do for that, how is AI seeing that their color is off? How are they picking up on that? And doctors will say, look, AI is just a tool. We use it as a tool. We don't use it as their primary medical provider. I agree. It's a fabulous tool. But can somebody tell the patients that? The patients are using it as their primary medical provider. They're not going in and getting seen. Remember I told you I had a gentleman, kind of a John Wayne type, going, Doc, am I good for another 50,000 miles? And I look at his abdomen and I'm like, no. You smoke, right? And he's like, yeah. Or I knew he smoked. I'm like, I want to make sure you don't have an aneurysm. Okay, you're a little young for the guidelines, but I want to ultrasound you. You're bloated. I'm going to ultrasound you. He's like, fine, whatever. Actually, he had a 10-centimeter aneurysm, which is a ballooning of his aorta, that was actually leaking that day. It was God that must have told me to look and do something. I was even shocked that the words came out of my mouth, and I didn't pick up on it in his physical because he wasn't there for that. He wasn't there for a physical. He was there for something entirely different. And yes, it would have been picked up during a physical, but he came in for I'm not sure what, and I'm seeing him in the lobby leaving, and I'm like, something's not right. AI does not do that. So I love the fact that Microsoft is going to team up with Mayo Clinic. In fact, CNN is saying, which I think is really good. I think they should do that. That they are going to address. They want to build an AI model trained specifically on medical data, including records, research, and the expertise of hospital clinicians. They want to help both patients and providers, and they want to minimize bad advice because there's remember, these AI models are being fed information from the internet. So how do we know what is being given in the internet? What are they taking and infusing into their model? And health advice and health AI is huge, especially since patients don't have access to doctors. They lost their doctor back in 2009, and they don't see a regular medical provider. And so the family doctor is starting to become less relevant. We're still extremely important. But when I see somebody, do I get to see their kids? Do I get to see the wife? Do I get to see the husband? Do I get to see their aunt and uncle, their grandparents? Did I deliver the baby? And then remember what the prenatal process was? No. I haven't seen that continuity of care in a while. Most family doctors don't, especially now that they're working for companies or doing telemedicine. So you as a patient, you're going to be like, Dahlia, I'm being told, even by my insurance company, to go to this site. I'm being told to do X, Y, and Z. What do I do? So my recommendation to you is always have a medical provider, a primary care, that you could bounce stuff off of. All right. For those individuals saying, I have strep throat, and they go online, and later you're going to get your prescriptions online. Who's examining your lungs and then looking for melanoma on your back? Who's looking for colorectal cancer? You know how many patients call up and they'll say, yep, I have food poisoning. I have diarrhea. I have, and all AI bots should ask, is there blood? And if the answer is yes, there's blood, that person has got to get their ass into the doctor and get seen. But what's also happening is patients are getting, savvy to that. They don't want to go in and get seen. It costs more money. So they're very, very careful about what to say. Now, I had a patient where I really couldn't treat them online because they were late by their period. And so patients are now saying, oh, yeah, I just had my period. How am I going to know? I never met them before. I don't have medical records on them. Or do you take any medications? I'm starting to see a lot of patients go, nope, I'm on no medications. I go, that's odd. I see you've been prescribed so many medicines with your previous online care. Yeah, I'm not on it because they're afraid that there's going to be a drug interaction that's going to prevent me from writing something, and they're still taking it. So is AI going to pick up on a patient lying? No. So I'm glad we're using it as a tool, but somebody's got to, send the memo, go and look. You still got to make sure you get seen. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, don't go away.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So we are watching the Ebola outbreak in Central Africa. It has topped 1,000 suspected infections. Democratic Republic of Congo emerging as the epicenter. We do not believe it's going to affect the U.S. Just as we were able to hopefully contain it to a degree with the previous outbreaks, although the 2014 to 2016 outbreak that killed 11,300 was catastrophic. The CDC does not believe Ebola is going to become widespread and affect Americans. However, we do need a timely and collaborative global response. According to Stanford Center for Innovation of Global Health, Michelle Berry, Senior Associate Dean of Global Health, says we need to support our DRC and its neighbors in tracking and containing this outbreak and saving lives. We had some imported cases back in 2014. We had 2 die within the United States from it, but fortunately, we didn't lose any more. So, the first suspected case in 2026 of this new strain called the Bundibugyo strain was reported in late April in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It was officially investigated and called an outbreak in May. This strain, we do not have a vaccine for or targeted treatment. We identified this strain, I think, in the early 2000s. So it's about a 20-year-old viral strain. So it's been around for a little bit, but it's still new in the realm of things as we've known about Ebola since the 70s. The number of suspected cases has grown to close to 1,000, 223 suspected deaths as of May 29th. So that's as of last week. There have been some confirmed cases of Ebola in Uganda, 3 of whom were imported from the DRC. Now, looking back at the 2014-2016, where 11,600 people died, 28,000 people were infected. So you see a high mortality rate. This is the largest outbreak since the virus was first identified in 1976. So where do Americans go? If they're over there, if they're helping out, if they're doing Doctors Without Borders. So officials announced that a 50-bed Ebola quarantine facility was supposed to open up in Kenya on May 29th, and a Kenyan court ordered a suspension of the plan because they were worried about the risk of public health. Senior officials said the 50-bed unit at an Air Force base in central Kenya would serve Americans who have been exposed to the virus but are still asymptomatic and would become operational now by Friday. So from what we understand, we are able to move forward with that. Cases of the Democratic Republic of Congo have surged since the May 17th emergency declaration. Unfortunately, with this strain, there's been a lot of things that have been an issue. One is it's pretty contagious. 2, we don't have treatment. 3 is the outbreak wasn't, I guess, declared until mid-May. And we think this started back in April. Plus, many areas might not necessarily be getting the declarations. I mean, I get the news. I'm on the internet all the time. I'm on air. But the average person in an average village there might not. Hence, if somebody is getting sick, vomiting blood, and they think it's a stomach flu, they could be getting exposed to their bodily fluids. So headache, high fever are symptoms, sore throat, muscle aches, extreme fatigue. Unfortunately, this hemorrhagic fever can really affect the organs. And so when the liver becomes affected, you could then get yellowing of the eyes and skin, jaundice, unexplained bleeding from the nose and mouth, stomach pain, vomiting, diarrhea, bruising, vasculitic looking, where your legs are bruised because the vessels are bleeding and not staying closed. This is according to USA Today. So people always ask, wait a second, Ebola, didn't this start with animals? They believe Ebola virus started with fruit bats. And then maybe gorillas or chimpanzees get the Ebola by eating the fruit that the fruit bats salivated on. They say, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, duikers, a small antelope native to Africa, can also be infected by eating contaminated food. Consumption of infected bushmeat or by touching objects that have been in contact with the virus is one of the ways we're seeing humans get it. And so, an animal can be a host for this virus. And then when that animal dies, anybody touching that animal can then unfortunately, or eating that animal, can unfortunately get this. Usually, we are seeing humans get this by touching other humans or being exposed to their secretions. But we are concerned about fleas, mosquitoes, ticks, and other vectors, because that is a potential. Also, could it be getting into the water? Could it be airborne? So these are things that we're kind of watching, especially with the newer strains. But most of the Ebola cases are by direct contact. So we'll keep you posted. Hopefully they are able to contain it. We're working on a vaccine. From what we understood, there's been a multi-million-dollar grant given to a few pharmaceutical companies. Unsure why this wasn't worked on before. I mean, the 2014-2016 outbreak was 12 years ago, 10 to 12 years ago, but they are working on a vaccine for this newer strain. In the meantime, we are looking at West Nile cases in the United States. There's been 13 cases since the start of the new year, 8 neuroinvasive. And unfortunately, we have had a case now in my local area. The Southern Nevada Health District is reporting a woman who's in her 40s was diagnosed with the neuroinvasive form of West Nile. She luckily has recovered, but she had to be hospitalized. And she reported traveling to another state where multiple human West Nile virus cases had been reported. But she came back to Clark County, Nevada, where I live, during the incubation period. Now, how do you get West Nile? Well, from mosquito bites. So the Health District's Fight the Bite campaign encourages residents to avoid insect bites. Why? Well, how? Well, first, eliminate standing water. If there's rain and there's a little bit of flooding or a doggy pool or a little baby kiddie pool, dump those out. Never have a kiddie pool sitting around. The water just gets dirty anyway. You're not going to put your kid back in it. Right? And a kid could drown in it. So you don't want little bodies of water, that they aren't using with you supervising. So you got to remove empty containers that collect water around homes and businesses. Mosquitoes love to breed in those areas, even small bottle caps, plant saucers, toys, wheelbarrows. The EPA has registered insect repellent. They recommend wearing loose-fitting long-sleeve shirts and pants when outdoors. I know it's hot, but you don't want the mosquitoes to touch you. Mosquitoes, again, they have a suck-blow mechanism where they blow a anesthetic into you so you don't feel them on you, and then they suck and feed, and then they could go to another human. During that blow mechanism is where they could give you disease. If you see mosquito activity, report it to the Health District Surveillance Program so they know. But West Nile is spread through the bite of a mosquito. Most infections are mild, but unfortunately some could be neuroinvasive, or it goes into an encephalitis, an inflammation of the brain, or a meningitis, inflammation of the membranes surrounding the brain and spinal cord, like the meninges. So last year, I don't think my neck of the woods didn't have any West Nile virus cases, but in the year before, there were 26 cases, including 14 neuroinvasive. So these are things that are concerning. Our local area has set up mosquito traps. I know there's been a lot of talk in, areas such as California. Why don't we just, send out genetic modified mosquitoes? I know the public isn't too happy about that because some of the previous genetically modified mosquito releases weren't necessarily successful. They want to breed the wild female mosquitoes who do most of the biting with sterile men so that the babies can't grow and there's new generations of mosquito. But I don't think we're there yet. So try not to get bit. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA-1. That's 800-JBS-USA-1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA-1 today.